Thank you so much for joining us. And over to you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Campari Academy and Monica, for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be in Paris, talking especially about UNI, that is my newest project, and that I am truly super excited about. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what was the concept, what is the concept, and how was the whole creative process behind it. And it took about 5 years from the initial idea to actually launch it in all the crazy 5 years that we all been going through. So I have another bar, Toca de Raposa, that opened 5 years ago. And our motto is, who returns, friend becomes. I think this is important to keep in mind because there's a lot of people that I'm going to talk about that were important in this project that was because of that, because of Toca. So one of the guests at Toca, that is my friend now, was asking me for restaurant recommendations. And I said, go to Prado, it's my favorite restaurant. She came back a few days later and said, Constanca, I really liked it, but I thought it was a little bit too UNI flavor. And I was like, UNI flavor? Well, that's a made-up word, one. But what do you mean, Tara? This is someone that is not from our industry. She's in the high fashion business. And she said, it's, when there's many things, but you don't really taste them all. They're together. And that was a concept that really sticked to my brain. And this is 5 years ago. And I thought, okay, UNI flavor, this is interesting. And I started immediately thinking, what does that mean in a drink? And 3 years later, I thought, okay, for example, Coca-Cola. It's the most commercial and biggest example that I feel that we have in our culture is Coca-Cola is made by a million ingredients, not a million, but a lot of ingredients that we don't identify them individually when we drink Coca-Cola. Even if we have something like the sweets of Coca-Cola, this tastes like Coca-Cola. But Coca-Cola is not a fruit, it's not lemon juice, it's not orange juice. Coca-Cola is a recipe, so that is UNI flavor. And that was the concept. So 3 years later, I heard the word UNI flavor. I had 3 years on my first bar, and I'm like, okay, I love it, it's great, but I need more. I need to do something more. I need to excite myself. I need to do something new for me, not necessarily for others, which might be selfish, but it's everything that we do in our company. I always try to say, do it for yourself, and then the consequences will happen, and everyone will be happy and excited about if you truly are. So 3 years later, after I heard the word UNI, I started thinking about it. That was not the time. This was 2021, beginning of 2021, so I let it sit. But I started to do some experiments. I will tell you about it in a few slides. A year, we can go, next slide. A year later, so 2022, I went to the hairdresser. And the owner of the hairdresser was a guest from Toca as well. And his partner is an amazing architect. And I was staying there, and it's super tiny space, beautiful designed. And I was saying to Peter, I like this, small. Toca became a monster, it's too busy. I miss this connection, I miss being able to curate everything. Because for UNI, if you're thinking about a drink that has 10 to 15 elements that you produce all of them, the labor that is behind it, it can only be possible in a very, very small space. So that happened when I was at that said hairdresser and thought, Peter, do you know any space around? And I started looking, and honestly, on that same day, I found this place that was initially a restaurant that was 10-seat table. When I say this, inspiration is everywhere. I know this is such a cliche, but it's something that I cannot stop repeating when I tell everyone that works with me. Say, don't compartmentalize your brain. Or like, this is moment for family. This is moment for fun in the beach with my dog. This is moment for hairdresser me time. No, it's everywhere. This is something that I really do, and I don't separate. And it's, of course, I love what I do, but it's everywhere. everywhere. There's inspiration in everything if you don't separate it. It's just one big line. Next slide. So the next step was to choose what I'm going to do with the aesthetics of it, because at this point you know how constructions and how, especially, well, Portugal is not the best country, everything takes forever to happen. So I decided to work with my team of architects that I did talk as well, especially because it's very a team game. So it's not I have an idea and then they work on a project and they present me the project and then I say, okay, let's go. No, with Toca it was deciding on something. Okay, let's move forward on this. Another meeting, another decision, back and forth, communication, always so many ideas. Toca, for example, is concrete and they gave idea of being round. It's a round bar, the walls are round. And then I said, okay, if you want to make it round, then make it everything round. There's no 90 degrees angles anywhere. Even when you, like the bottom, like connecting to the floor, everything is round. So that was the brief that I gave for the architects, was very similar to the approach on the drinks, because I think the next level of what is new in cocktails is it's not. Of course, you can always develop a technique and explore certain flavors through the manipulation of said ingredients, but the ingredients already exist. So what is exotic for me, probably not exotic for someone native Indian, or doesn't matter. You know, I might not know about this ingredient, but it's not a new thing. So what I feel is the new is the combinations, is that UNI flavor. So I wanted to give that experience also in the aesthetics of the bar. So when I said to the architects, what is the future of cocktail bars? So cocktail is a luxury, right? Already is, and it's going to be even more of a luxury. And luxury, it needs to be comfortable, because if it's not comfortable, it's not truly a luxury. So when being comfortable, it's all about not only how you feel, but the colors that are there, the lighting, and how is the lighting presented. And I trust these guys so much that I just gave this brief, and I say, I want you to go in. You all seen the movie The Gladiator. So, you know, when he dies and he goes in that lavender fields and with the horse, and I'm like, I want guests to have that experience when they come in UNI, have that heaven, surreal sense. And that was the brief that I gave to the guys. Next slide, please. But one thing was for sure, I knew I wanted to work with the stations from the guys behind bars, and we wanted to make a beautiful stainless steel, clear stainless steel that completely changed. So, you know, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. So that was my initial idea. I want something like that. I even remember telling you about it, Monica, before. And then the architects have this talent of completely making me change my mind, which I'm always open. If it's something better, I'm up for it. So they actually studied how are the lines in natural rocks, and then replicated this pattern. And then everything is super functional. When I work, I need to, and I was telling Alex from behind bars, I say, Alex, I need ice, I need a place for drinks, and a place for bottles, and that's it. I don't need more. Just make it functional. I trust you. You're better than me. So these are all the details of the stations. Where here is a little sink, here cups with water, and then this is all mobile. So we have one that we can turn around up or down if you have an event and you don't need the bottles there, or if you want to do a workshop, you can play all around it. You can go next. So here you have a little picture of how the station before the final polishing. And we can go to the next slide. And that was the thing that was for sure. This is the final look with the curtains that I'm going to show you next. You can put the next slide. And the biggest, because like I said before, for me, it was, this is the next thing for cocktails, is to create not necessarily the next thing, but the future, what could be new, because what is new is something that doesn't exist, like I said. And what is the future of architecture was something that I asked them. It's not my field, I stick to what I know. And they said, well, in the future, we're not going to extract natural materials to build a table or to extract rock. For example, at Toca we have a pink limestone, a 2x2 cube, and that's a natural stone. So their idea, and that I completely agreed, because already the top of the bar was with the shape of rocks, why not make the bottom of the bar with a copy of a sponge, so it looks exactly like this, like a rock, but it's a company called Soft Rock in Portugal, and they replicate rocks using a sponge material. You can put on the next. Here you can clearly see, so this is, and it looks like this. I was a little bit afraid that it was going to be a little bit natural history museum vibe, but it did an amazing work. You can put on the next. Next was how the walls and how everything was going to be, the feeling. So the guys always a bit scared of showing me the renders, which is this image of how the bar could be. They came, I was about to go on my best friend's hen do to Italy. And we had the meeting, I was super excited. They were like, oh, I think we got somewhere. We normally don't show the renders, but we're gonna show it to you. I wanted to cry of how bad it was. It's not this. It was all black, all walls black. The floor was like full of little stones. There was a little bonsai in the middle of the station, and they put some holes here and it said decoration items. And I'm like, guys, did we not arrive somewhere in the previous conversations? You need to start again. You need to start again. This is the opposite of what I wanted. This is Buddha Bar 98. What happened was, because of that conversation that I've always I'm never not honest. And I said to them, you need to completely start again. We stayed to the station. We want light. You already gave me so many good references. Start again. And then that was the final. When I come back from Italy, they already had two versions, being the curtains, one of them and my favorite, and that was the one that stick. But this to say that, and they were super happy, and they say, okay, it was great that you said no to our proposal, because they made them think and go to something better. Because what I always wanted to prove, the point is, think about the whole concept. How do you think a black room is comfortable, is a luxury, makes you feel, especially if you're drinking alcohol, I feel like makes you feel like dirty, suffocated. You can put on the next one. It's heavy. So this is how it looks. Uni, sits 9 people. So it's the bartenders here, and then you have 9 people all around here. And then the ceiling was also something that I didn't want. That is an artist, a Portuguese artist. It's a material, it's a hard material that then with heat they turn it super thin, but it can't go super cold because then it's gonna break. And he painted over, and this has layers. You can see it maybe a little bit, it looks a little bit like marble, but this, he actually had a massive injury on his wrist. He put this amount of paint on top of this canvas, and the work was to remove all the paint. So this is the remaining fragment, the colors of it. It looks a little bit like marble, and it has a supernatural touch to it. You can, next slide. Okay, so now the aesthetics are done, now the part of the creative. So this board, because then, okay, how did I went from, I want to make 10 drinks, all drinks need to be UNI flavor, and I need to push myself. you cannot know where you're going. So I had no idea where I was going, because if I knew where I was going, it would not be new. I would be copying myself or copying someone else. So I decided, okay, I'm going to choose 200 ingredients that I am kind of comfortable extracting flavor from. And then Toca has 5 years. So when it comes to, let's say these are the fruit and veg, when it comes to all the fruits, for me, I want to extract the natural element of it. So I want the juice. So for me, this was like, this is all clarifications except for the citrus. And this is all, I want to make lives easier for everyone. So even though we have the toys, if it's just a simple maceration, 24 hours, room temperature, that's 100% what I'm going to do, if that is going to be the way that highlights the produce. So decide on the ingredients that we have, that we want to work with, so 200. And this started in 2021. And then, of course, I slowed it down because when you don't have an actual bar, and it's all a very conceptual idea of a dream that probably is going to happen, it's not easy to pursue it. So I've slowed down a little bit. And then, next slide. I started doing the tests in January of 2022. What happened was I had the tests, I knew how to extract flavor from these elements that I wanted to work with. Now the question is how I'm going to create this drink, how I'm going to build this, how I'm going to start, how's going to be the process. And thinking, like I said before, if I have a formula I've created, I don't know, probably around 100, 150 drinks in my life already. So I know what works. I know how it works. But then I'm just going to copy Gorillas. That is one of the best sellers of Toca, or that everyone loves. So I need to think my guide was something that doesn't mean flavor, that doesn't have flavor. And that is a color. A color does not have flavor. Of course, the color can guide us and make you think, okay, if this is pink, I'm going to think it's sweet. We all heard that situation. But a color, white or black or pink, doesn't taste. So what I did first was focusing on the colors. And the first one, this is Shaya. It's one of the favorites. And it was the color white. You can change the slide. Yes, these are some of the drinks. So this is almost clear black, and this is dragon fruit pink. And these are all, especially the black and the white that I'm going to speak to you about, was exactly that color process. Next slide. Well, so this is how this brain works. I chose, number one, this is the Shaya, this is the white one. So how I'm going to make this drink white? Coconut milk. That was for sure. And then I was pairing one ingredient with the other without linking them at all. So coconut milk. And then what goes well with coconut milk? Celery. With celery, coriander seeds. Coriander seeds, mango. Mango, hops, passion fruit, cedar leaf, orange blossom, and so on. And I decided I'm going to do 15 ingredients in each drink. Then when I had all these ingredients, I put on a tin equal parts of everything to try. And then I was like, still, I don't know, if you put equal parts of everything, after that, when you start balancing, this could be so many different drinks. So then when I try to mix them all equally, I try, and then, okay, this is where I'm going to go. And then I balance it. And until that moment that I balanced it for the first time, I had no idea what was going to come out of it. And that was the process for almost all the drinks. Another one that I did was similar, but it was in a trio. So it was seaweed. I wanted to work with seaweed, rice, and fermented kiwi. Because I had a lot of surplus because of Toca, because we make the production for all the bars together. And then I started working in a line. So rice, I'm going to do with lichen, with fermented kiwi, dill, with seaweed, jasmine. And then I went on and on and on, always deciding on how many, so there was a limit for it. And that's pretty much how the creative process works for Uni drinks. The menu does not have the ingredients listed. It's not a secret. I'm happy to tell all guests, but it has just a description. One guest asked me, this is the next thing we're gonna work. So, for example, one cocktail is called the Nupit, and it's fruity, smoky, strong, and something else. And she had the drink, and then she asked me, if I ask for Nupit again, will I have the same drink? And I thought, wow, I love this question, because you could have actually a second drink. I could have multiple menus at the same time, because the description can be so many different things. So that is, I guess, the next step. And next slide. So these are some examples of how we were doing all the experiments. It was just non-stop, a lot of drinking, a lot of weekends. And then, yeah, that's it. You can, next slide. What is the focus at Uni? Uni, like I said, it's a 9-seat cocktail bar. We have, well, the cocktails. We don't serve food. We don't serve anything apart from the cocktails on the menu. We don't do classics. We don't do anything else. We do 10 drinks, and that's all you can have at Uni. And the focus was always to make people feel good. And this is not just a feel-good experience in terms of you have a drink or you have a little cocktail, you feel better, but it's in a more global. It's the music, but it's also the aesthetics being beautiful, and that is proven that when you're treating yourself, you feel good. And it's not everyone that can go to a fine dining restaurant and spend 300, 400 euros per person. And I feel like in Uni we can provide that sense of feel good, I'm treating myself, and it's all very much connected to the aesthetics, people feeling that they are in a different world, and together with the amazing hospitality. And next slide. What happened with the logo that initially was that all stripes Uni means also sea urchin in Japanese, and that was the link initially with the logo that had multiple stripes. And well, one of my best friends is also the designer for the company since the past 7 years. And we're like, okay, this doesn't make sense anymore. Even the uniforms that were initially, I got them straight away. A month before, completely changed into something a little bit like this. And the logo was exactly the same. Like, I don't want, because this was a GIF. So it was 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, no, we're gonna stay with 3. We're gonna stay with the slide number 3 because it makes much more sense. And this to say that changing the concept, and every day, I would change the logo now if I had to, if I didn't believe it anymore. And it's always, say, if it's for better, why not? And that's it. Next slide. And I just want, so this, all the bills come with all these sweets. And we have worked with amazing ceramic artist that does these little pots and all the ceramics that we have. And I was just obsessed with the forms of it and how it made sense. So actually, the sweets and the amuse-bouche that we have, the palate cleanser that we have at the beginning of the experience, were actually bought first. And then we were saying to my best friend, we need to figure out something to serve here. And that was the sweets. And that's it, I guess.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. It's very fascinating. And I think what is so interesting is that you're at the forefront of that movement of taking away the preconception of a bar needs to be this and only this. And it's really nice to see that you just fully explored your creative side. So how does people react to it when they come in?
It has been a big, big surprise. For example, because, well, not for example, but because... No. What should I do?
It's next to the microphone.
I take it out. So, because it's so different and there's no option and it's completely... For example, comparing to Toca, you can see ingredients that we are using that people are not used to it, but they understand how the flavor profile will be, what are the other ingredients, they can read what's in the drink. They are more open to actually disagree with them or be super picky. At UNI, because you don't have it's so new, they embrace it. They're like, okay, I know nothing, I go. And the flavor profile is actually very approachable. The drinks are not weird on the taste. They're all delicious. But yeah, I guess I answer your question.
Absolutely. And so so how many nights you are open? 5. And how many covers on average do you do in a busy night or in a general night?
Right now, it's only been 6 months, so it's very, very, very up and down, but around 25.
And do you think that this bar could only happen as your second, or could this, for example, be your first? Or do you need that experience?
I think only as a second. And it was only, I can see, comparing to Toca, how that is a much, here we sit 9, at Toca we'll sit 40. And for example, the numbers that we're doing now at UNI are already much higher than the numbers that we were doing at Toca at the first year and a half. So I think it's already the name of Toca really helps and my name as well. Like it's not my first bar. There's already been 5 years at Toca, so people already trust. Yeah. Good.
But despite being very progressive and very forward-thinking when it comes to offering and product, the hospitality and your philosophy behind running a bar has always been very traditional, in the sense that guest experience, hospitality, generosity, warmth is very important. So how do you teach that to your staff? Because I can imagine that your team also shares this kind of visionary mindset.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, there's one thing that I think is important, was the music. The feeling of it at UNI was, what kind of music am I going to play there? Like, I only listen 70s, 80s. I love Beatles, and my team, even like cleaning the floor, listening to Stop by Spice Girls, and they say to me, "You're such an old soul," when I'm listening to something from '97, but. When it comes to music, for example, at UNI, we adapt always to how the vibe is. Even is so conceptual, and I did a very conceptual playlist, and it was like, this doesn't work. This is too much. This feels like you are in an installation. This is still a bar. Always we're very present on trainings and one-on-ones in the company, and it's always, I have my head bartender doing the manual, and it's with a big motto. It's the guests are first, who returns, friend becomes. You teach by showing, by being an example, and it's something that I've always done and always said. If we have it in the cocktail at UNI, we literally don't have anything apart from the batches for the menu, but at Toca we do, and it's always like, guys, guests don't need, if they don't need to go on the menu. If they want something, if we have it, we absolutely do it. And so did I answer it?
Absolutely. And how big is your team in total now?
With me, it's going to be 10 of us from next month.
Oh, that's a lot. Scary.
Yeah.
I'm going to open up to the room. Any questions from anyone? Dean, always. No, it's great.
So I've seen the amazing picture of the soft rock kind of sponge. How hard is that to clean?
It's been 6 months. It's been 6 months, and it's like I said, we open 5 days a week, and it's an average of 25 people there. It's not necessarily the clean, but it's more, I feel people are nervous, and they touch it a lot like this, and I'm a little bit scared that they're going to take it out. But the cleaning is not an issue. No.
And does that go the same for the stainless top? Does that take a lot of constant polishing?
That takes a lot of constant polishing. You need to be constant with a kind of wet one, a super dry one, and always be like the Olympics kind of thing, always cleaning after. And the scratches are also a thing, but we're finding a way to do like a polishment every year.
Very cool. So you're a fan of the movie Karate Kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Constanza. Question about the drinks that you yourself described as conceptual. Can the research that you put into become an obstacle towards the customer, towards the guest? So once the guest comes, can it find it a bit too much conceptual?
I feel the opposite, like super interested, because it's so weird. So it's not initially. So imagine, ask for a drink. We always advise, obviously, and then he tries the drink. And then ask, but how did you make this? What's the concept behind it? How many ingredients are there? How many? How do you? All the questions are. It's a plus. So I feel like they are more interested than less. Yeah.
So it's almost like the drinks are a conversation starter as well. So does that mean that there's multiple people working on a shift, or is it one bartender only?
It's one bartender only, for now. Because now it's still, like I said, it's like 20, 25 people per night. But it happened, I've done 5 sittings by myself of 9 people non-stop, 1 hour and a half. And that was intense, but that happened once so far. For example, the person that I have there at the moment is a bartender with around 12 years experience, worked most of his life in Canada. He's not involved in the production. He's just doing also the summer in Portugal and coming back for Canada. But he's a person, he's a talker. He's there and he understands guests and everyone that walks in. And his main goal is always, I need to make this person feel comfortable. And that's also super important to have the right person, because the creative process is it's a little bit on me, and the production side is also it's going to be 2 soon, that do the production for UNI, for Toca, and for all the consultancies.
So would you agree then that whoever works at UNI actually doesn't need necessarily a bartender background as long as you're a good people person?
Absolutely. For me at UNI, and I always try to look for people that are more diverse in their knowledge. For example, the guy that we have in charge of prep, he's a product engineer. He's never done anything that he's doing, and he's now producing, I don't even know, but around 500 liters of cocktails per month without any experience. So for UNI, it interests me a lot more. Someone that knows how to talk to people, has a lot of interests, knows how to hold a conversation, and has passion for hospitality and hosting.
Exactly, because I think within our industry, it's this myth that to be a good bartender, you have to be creative, you have to be good at making drinks, and then people forget that you also have to, as the name says, bartender, you have to tend the bar, you have to be able to control the room, talk to your guests, and really be the puppet master more than the creator in that sense. So I would agree with that 100%. Any more questions from the room, or shall we? Yes, question. I will not throw you the mic.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, thanks for the presentation. Just one question about the production side. Because if it makes all the batches and ingredients for the different venues, how do you check the quality?
Great question. So when it comes to Toca, for example, I leave my head bartenders in charge of that and for all the team to figure it out. And if I see there's a problem, I will interfere. That at Toca. At UNI, I make the batches. So I say to João, I'm arriving, please put everything in the main table, and I will myself do all the batches for UNI. And for consultancies, I always check the first ones. If it's a new recipe and then he's replicating for the first time, I will check. But they are quite simple, so I just trust him.
And the bartenders working in the places, they do regular shifts at the production site to get that view?
Not at the moment, because I felt that the ones that are on the floor, they really love to be at night, and that's where their potential is risen. And the guys that are at day, also, they don't know how to work at night. But this is something that I always say to my team. You have your schedule, you work 40 hours a week. If you want more, you're welcome to come here when it's close to work, to ask João to do prep shifts. So they can always do it, and they do it. But I try not to mix it because I used to, and I felt that was not very beneficial for none of them, because also the schedules, they're used to night and then moving to day, always late, always, no.
And we have a last question.
Hi, nice Toca. It's one of my favorite bars. I've been there a few times in the last year. Complimenti. Now, you said a phrase before. You said, we still have to remember it's a bar. It's not an installation. And obviously, you push the boundaries of what a bar can be perceived as and what cocktails can be looked as. Now that you put a boundary there, obviously, you can look over it. How far would you want to go after this? Can you see something a bit more like an installation? How far do you think you can go with a bar and it's still recognizable as a bar and not an installation anymore?
It's an interesting question. So, like I said before, I make everything, my career-wise, to make me happy. So I wanted to do this because I wanted to be pushed in a creative way. And then if I tomorrow will learn, this is going to happen, how to sail a boat, I will probably do something in business related to that. So I don't think in the foreseen future I will be interested in pushing in this direction, but something different, something more like one of my dearest friends. She's an amazing creative director and a composer, singer, and I much more see, for example, open a piano bar, for example. And this is, I cannot predict, but it's very what I'll do next, it's related to what I want to do in life, not as just a business. I always say, figure out what you want to do and then make money out of that. This is kind of like how I've moved.
Thank you so much. And if there's no more questions, I think we will say thank you to Constanca, and we will leave our headset.